part of the frame, of course. It's a very unusual, very unique motorcycle. It's a V-belt drive, and as I mentioned before, some of them are direct. This belt, as you can see, goes directly to the output shaft of the engine. So again, to start this machine, you start pedaling it down the street with the valve open to release the compression. And after you have pedaled enough speed, you drop the valve, and if you've done everything right, the engine will start and you're underway. So this is a direct drive machine, as many of them were in the early days. The handlebars, again, are the long pullback where you can sit upright. You don't have to reach forward and come home with an aching back trying to reach the handlebars. That takes care of the marble. This is a 1913 Excelsior, again made by the Schwinn Bicycle Company. The engine is 30.5 cubic inches. Now these engines, you would have to look on this side, but the intake valve is over the exhaust valve. Intake over exhaust, they were called. The flat belt drive again with an Eclipse engine shaft clutch. So this was the elite as far as the accessories were concerned on a motorcycle. When you had a magneto ignition and an Eclipse engine shaft clutch, well, that was just about the ultimate. Lights, by the way, on the early motorcycles were accessories. There were a few electric models that came out with lights, but generally you bought the lights as accessories. You could buy any number of different makes of lights and install on the motorcycle. Incidentally, the Excelsior, 1912 Excelsior, which looked almost identical to this 13, the twin 1912 Excelsior was the first motorcycle in the world to do 100 miles an hour. That was in 1912, and you can imagine it was a machine just quite similar to this, except it was a V-twin. So if you can imagine sitting on this beast and doing 100 miles an hour. The guys had a lot of hair on their chest in those days. So that just about takes care of the Excelsior. By the way, there is still gas pressure in this gas tank. I think there's a couple hundred pounds, 132 pounds of pressure in this gas tank, which furnished the Prestolite gas to fire the headlight and the tail light, which again you would light with a match. This is a 1909 Hudson motorcycle. It's the only Hudson in existence. Many of the old-timers in the antique motorcycle business have never even seen a piece of literature on the Hudson motorcycle. I have a friend in Southern California, in fact in Hollywood, his name is Bud Eakins. One time when he attended a swap meet at the Rose Bowl in Pasadena, he found a Hudson engine. He called me one day and asked if he could borrow my Hudson motorcycle. And of course I wanted to know why, and he said he told me he'd found an engine and was going to build one. At that time, a gentleman by the name of Von Dutch, who was quite an artist, a machinist, many people in the car world and antique business will remember Von Dutch for his handiwork at striping and this sort of thing. He's quite a machinist. But at any rate, I loaned him the motorcycle, and Von Dutch fabricated many of the parts, the front forks. They used part of a Raycycle frame, and on the head frame of this motorcycle is the Hudson nameplate, a metal Hudson nameplate. So I asked Bud what he was going to do for the Hudson nameplate, and he said, well, he'd have to paint it on. So I had an extra Hudson nameplate, and I gave it to him. And I told him that if he ever tried to pass his Hudson off as an authentic Hudson, that I would blow the whistle. Now this little speech will make record of the fact that Bud Eakins' Hudson is a fake. Okay, here again, this is a V-belt drive, and it is direct to the engine drive shaft. There's nothing too unusual about the Hudson motorcycle. It used a Brown and Barlow carburetor, which is English, which is a bit unusual. But other than that, there's not too much outstanding about it. Did you get a shot of the Hudson, the original Hudson name on the side? This will be the only chance you'll ever have taking a picture of a factory-released Hudson motorcycle. Okay, this is a 1912 Monarch motorcycle made in Owego, Tioga County, New York. And again, it's the only Monarch listed in our antique motorcycle roster, so presumably it's the only one. There may be another existing somewhere. This is a very chesty engine. As you notice, it's a 74 cubic inch, which was unusual for its time. It has a countershaft eclipse clutch. Instead of the eclipse clutch being on the engine drive shaft, this one has the clutch on the countershaft. They both were used just depending on the make of the motorcycle. This has, if you'll notice, the springs on the rear seat. Their advertisement on this was the featherbed spring seat. And it takes quite a bit of pressure to actuate these, but you can see they do have a very good springing action on them. And it's a very comfortable motorcycle to ride. It is a big motorcycle. Again, the pullback handlebars allows you to sit upright and without extending your arms very much forward to control the motorcycle. It has suspension on the front end. Again, a little coil spring in the tube here takes some of the shock off of the driver. And incidentally, on a lot of these machines that we've passed over, if you notice it has the long handlebars, and these were called Rough Rider bars. You grip the outer end of these bars and they're pretty flexible. So in the dirt roads which prevailed in those days, it would take the shock off of your arms and your wrists just by hanging onto the flexible end of these, and you could still control the motorcycle. The Rough Rider grips, they were called. And that's about it for the Monarch.